Hi everyone, my name is Lex Lucey, and today I'm thrilled to be joined by the amazing Tony Vincent, who played the role of
How are you?
in the original Broadway cast of American Idiot. Now,
It's great. Thanks.
this video is to help promote the Galway University Musical Society's production of American Idiot, for which tickets are currently on sale. So if you're watching this video and you haven't got them, go get them right now. So, Tony, how are you doing today?
I'm good. It's a busy day. Holidays are like right around the corner, and it's busy and good.
Yeah, so first, I want to know how much do you remember a lot about your process doing American Idiot? Because it was about like 13 years ago now. So
I remember it really, really well because it was so unusual. There's a couple of reasons why I say it was kind of an unusual situation and why I remember it so well. Primarily, it's one of those opportunities where you get to create a character that has never existed before. You have the sort of confines of what that character is supposed to be, but apart from what is on that record, American Idiot, you really don't know who this is. You get a character breakdown, at least that's what I got when I was auditioning for the show. But what was also really cool on the second part of that is when we assembled the cast, we didn't have a show yet. We there was literally no book. There was no Johnny journaling anything. There was no text. All we had was this bunch of songs, and we hadn't, I don't believe, you could maybe correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think we were even going to include anything from 21st Century Breakdown. I think it was almost going to be exclusively American Idiot. And then there was a couple of ideas to bring stuff from the record that followed as well. But yeah, I remember it incredibly clearly.
So, first question is, how did you first find out about the show and what was your initial thoughts about it being made?
Sure. Um, First of all, I before I was an actor on Broadway, I was a recording artist. So I was a singer-songwriter. And I remember I had a friend who worked at Warner Brothers who was putting out American Idiot. And I got a pre-release copy, I don't know, 6 months before the record or something came out. So because they would use that for promotion and that sort of thing when actual physical copies were still being used. And I remember listening to it one or two times and then putting it on the shelf and not listening to it again until I was auditioning for that record. I didn't get how large of a project it was the first time that I heard the record. Um, and then when revisiting those songs again for that audition, I was really, really overcome by the complexity of just what the entire body of work was. So most people, when they audition for shows, they have an agent, and all agents pretty much get the same kind of content. They subscribe to, I don't remember what the service is called, but anybody who's casting a show, they get a breakdown of the shows. It seemed like a character that I would really gel with. My agent thought so, and I definitely supported him. I tend to gravitate towards roles that are a bit dark, and um, I find I find that characters who, I'll say like a Saint Jimmy, it's very easy to play them being just the bad guy, but if you can make it a much more enticing character as opposed to just someone who's kind of creepy or scary or that sort of thing, it makes the character so much more complex. So anyway, it was a role that I really thought that I could really, wrap my head around and do justice to. I mean, it was a lot of back and forth. I even flew to LA, and it was down to me and two other gentlemen who were actually film actors. They had some stage experience, and one had some experience with rent, just like I had. Um, but in the end, it seemed that Billy Joe was you know, the guy who ultimately chose me for the role.
Yeah, I can see why of all the roles in the show, this would be the one they want to get a film actor for, getting a big name in it.
Right, right. Well, fortunately, they chose me.
Yeah. Okay, so you of course shared the role of St. Jimmy with Billy Joe Armstrong throughout the role. I just want to know, was there a lot of collaboration between the two of you when you were creating the character, seeing how he created you?
Honestly, yeah, you know what? While Billy Joe had a pretty big hand in the music of it and how the arc was, the band was still on tour while we were basically putting the show together. So I have to give a ton of credit to Tom Kitt and Carmel Dean. So she was our basically in-house MD, and Tom was the overall kind of decision maker of how this piece would even be put together. So I didn't have a great deal of collaboration with Billy Joe. I had more collaboration with Michael Mayer than anybody else. But I think because I'm kind of an unconventional musical theater actor, he kind of let me do. Basically, he gave me enough rope to hang myself on if he needed to, kind of pull me back or address that this is not how this is going to go. I don't think that's a wise choice. Can we try it from this angle? But there was a lot of experimentation that I was given to explore who this character was, and I think that's what makes Michael Mayer and the great directors really, really good, because they assemble a team of really strong creatives. Choreography to set design to that sort of thing. The people that were involved in American Idiot they were at the height of their careers and very innovative at all costs. And I think that that's what makes Michael such a good director, is because he trusts the actor to explore a lot before he kind of reels them in if he needs to. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So St. Jimmy, like you said before, he's a bit of a crazy character. He's probably the most insane character in the show. Maybe not evil per se, but do you have any sort of ritual or process to get into that kind of headspace, or was it something you could just like, turn on and off when you were going on stage?
Um, the way that the theater was structured at the St. James in New York on Broadway, it was cool because my dressing room was completely away from everybody else's. I'm kind of a recluse naturally. I kind of like a lot of time to myself, and I like to read, and I like music, and I like to write, whether it's writing music or journaling. And so my dressing room actually happened to be very close to where I entered, up on this huge platform, uh, stage left of where my entrance was, upon this huge like double stairwell kind of thing. So I could essentially leave my dressing room and kind of get right on stage and not have to see anybody even before I'm I entered. Um, which was really a good benefit, because it allowed for zero distraction before I went on. I really didn't have a process per se. Um, I do certain warm-ups vocally to make sure that my voice is ready to roll. I never oversing before I go on stage, no matter what show I'm doing, because I know usually the roles that I'm hired for are pretty vocally taxing. So I know I only have so much gas in the tank to use to get me through the night, you know?
Yeah, that dressing room being right next to where you enter the stage, that sounds like the dream to me. So
It was pretty dope. And it was cool because they allowed me to paint it how I wanted to. So I, came in with this really kind of dark gray-esque kind of color that was really lovely for who this character was, you know?
yeah. So next one, the material, even all these years later, is still very relevant to this day, including
Yeah.
character of Saint Jimmy, who I always interpret him as the personification of addiction of any kind,
Yep.
really. So
Yeah, totally.
why do you think it still holds up as well as it does, including maybe the character?
Well, I think, at least being an American, it's pretty appropriate for what has been sort of the political landscape of what's gone on in, over 15 years here, really. It's while I'm incredibly grateful to have been born here, we have a lot of sort of outwardly freeing experiences to really explore here in America. that being said, as time has kind of gone on over the last 15 years, you can see these sort of two different groups of people that are becoming more and more divisive, which I find really interesting and appropriate when you start to kind of A/B when that record was put out and kind of what the political environment was with, the falling of the Twin Towers and that sort of thing. And then you swing it to what's going on now and the craziness of, a president that we had before Biden, and who knows what's going to have with our elections next year. I mean, we're in a very strange place, and I don't think that we have grown up very much on any end of the spectrum, for that matter. I mean, the really crazy right wing is going crazy right, and the crazy left are going extremes just the same. And so to find that middle lane of compromise and a place where people can be their own individual selves and yet still feel, in this sort of community, I don't know if we'll ever experience that here in America anymore, if we ever did. But it just seems that the extremes have gotten more extreme as time has gone on.
Yeah, I totally get that. So, and final question is, what's the best piece of advice you'd have to anyone playing St. Jimmy? Like, you had to give one piece of advice.
Be seductive more than be evil. Being bad is boring. Being bad at face value. Being evil, it's one dimensional, and you'll lose your interest. Your audience won't care about you because you want, I'll put in quotes, you want the bad guy to actually be cared for. I mean, I think what makes Anthony Hopkins, when he's in roles that are very, very destructive, there's something very enticing about this individual. I think that's, you have to have that as you enter this role, because the last thing you want to do is just be some guy on stage who's pissed off. And I'm going to even go broader than that. As a company, the goal of this is to be as authentic and real and great storytellers all the time. And that doesn't mean the show is just about being pissed off. You can have moments of being angry at the man, at the machine that you're a part of, but don't let that fuel the reason why you're doing the show. Because if that's the only reason, or if that's the only energy that you bring on stage, it's going to fall flat. It may be exciting musically, but if they don't care about the characters, meaning if you just play them pissed off, you're going to miss it. You're going to miss the spirit of life. I find that being really fortunate to have been a part of Rent in the early days, and then American Idiot. I don't want to say that American Idiot is a no day but today kind of experience, but it does have that sort of hauntingly hopeful undercurrent of love fueling hope, if that makes sense. Even though there's a lot of rage and anger and frustration and disconnect and this sort of tug of war emotionally, individually, as well as, between characters on stage. So I don't know. I think to answer that question, I would go broader than just about being, what advice can I give to the St. Jimmys that have come after me? It's don't just be pissed. It's so much more luxurious and fun when it's not just about anger.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for doing this. Your answers were very in-depth. I love to hear it. So do you want to let the viewers know where they can find you and any upcoming projects you might be working on that you can tell us
Yeah,
about?
sure. Absolutely. I mean, TonyVincent.com is my website. While I'm a part of social media, it's not a go-to thing. But if people ever need to get a hold of me, my site is the best thing to do. I also am a producer, and and I mix records for people all over the world. So if you want to get into, songwriting or music production, soundshop370.com is my sort of creative space when I'm in this room. And so, yeah, those are two probably the best ways to get a hold of me. All contact information are on either site.
All right. Cool. Thank you very much for doing this.
My pleasure indeed. It was really a joy.
in the chat here.